What do scholars say about the myth of Christian persecution? Scholars do not deny that some Christians were persecuted and martyred, but they challenge the traditional, oversimplified narrative of a constant empire-wide age of martyrs lasting for 300 years. Instead, modern scholarship presents a more nuanced view of Christian persecution. Key scholarly arguments. Persecution was sporadic and localized, with the exception of a few empire-wide decrees such as those under Emperor Decius and Diocletian. Most persecution was not a systematic Roman policy. It was often localized and initiated by individual governors or mobs. And I would be willing to bet that even those persecutions under Decius and Diocletian are not what Christians claim they were. Motivations were complex. Persecution was rarely, if ever, based solely on a person's Christian belief. Christians were persecuted for refusing to participate in state-sponsored religious rituals, which was seen as a sign of disloyalty to the state and to the emperor. Their beliefs were often viewed as antisocial and a threat to public order and Roman traditions. The myth refers to exaggerated narratives. The term myth of persecution is primarily used by scholars to describe the exaggerated and often fictionalized accounts of martyrdom that were compiled centuries later. These narratives were used to create a heroic founding story for the church, reinforce the faith of believers, and provide a model for Christian life and death. Scholars like Candida Moss argue that these stories, while based on some real events, were often embellished for theological and political purposes. Fewer martyrs than traditionally believed. While the exact numbers are unknown, historians generally agree that the total number of martyrs was far lower than the hundreds of thousands or even millions often claimed in traditional accounts. The vast majority of Christians in the Roman Empire lived their lives without facing legal persecution. The Roman Empire was generally tolerant. The Roman Empire was generally tolerant of a wide variety of religions, allowing for many different cults and practices to coexist. The issue with Christians was their refusal to integrate their faith with the civic religion of Rome, a stance that was perceived as a direct challenge to the authority of the state. What this means is Christianity was never illegal in the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire did not go around gathering up all Christians and executing them if they just wouldn't deny Jesus. That is pure mythology, fantasy. The stories that say that happened are not accurate or true. They told those stories for political and theological reasons. In summary, scholars see Christian persecution as a genuine but intermittent and often localized phenomenon rather than a constant, all-encompassing war of extermination. The myth is not that persecution never happened, but that the extent, scale, and nature of it have been heavily romanticized and exaggerated over centuries. So why would the early church fathers want you to believe that the early Christian church suffered great persecution, immense, horrible persecution, if that wasn't really the truth? And it wasn't. Isn't it obvious? They want you to believe that the most important thing in life is believing in Christianity, and that you should believe it even to your death, and that you should never deny or reject Christianity, even if it causes you to lose your life.